People are now coming up with lines like Facebook changed the world, it was a Facebook revolution in places like Egypt and other countries across the Middle East and North Africa. I don't think on its own social media, be it Facebook, Twitter, email, could have achieved the monumental change we saw across the region this year, but it's undeniable that it played a role. For example, in Egypt, here was a country, despite decades of the absence of a real political culture, a real democracy, a new generation, a very techno-savvy young people had developed. They developed these social media tools. And of course, a year ago when Khalid Said was killed in Alexandria, it was Wael Ghonim, the Google executive, who anonymously set up the Facebook, "We are all Khalid Said." And it became a rallying point in a country which didn't allow people to gather, to protest, didn't allow people to express their views, didn't allow people who went to jail for having blogs that were critical of the regime. So suddenly it opened a new political space, and Facebook clearly played a key role in opening that political space even further. But then, of course, at a certain point during those 18 days of unprecedented protests, President Mubarak and his key officials shut down the internet. The whole country had no internet. So what did people do? They went to Tahrir Square. They couldn't sit at home with their Facebook and their Twitter. They had to go out to find out. And of course, don't forget, this is a country of 80 million people. And the vast majority aren't literate enough, aren't well off enough to have access to those tools. So it helped, if you like, it brought it to a certain point, but it needed a lot of other things as well to be in place to see what happened in Egypt and in other places. Well, I think if you're talking about a more open, a more transparent political culture, then every window, if you like, should be welcomed. If Twitter becomes a tool to let people know what's happening, to allow people to express their views, what do I find on Twitter? Let's look at Egypt again. I find out where protests are going to happen. I find out what officials are saying. I find out what the activists are saying, what the experts are saying. Now, people are asking the question, should there be limits to social media in Britain? Members of the ruling party came out and said maybe we should control BlackBerry messengers because it played a role in inciting the riots. So there was such a hue and cry when the Prime Minister said that, which showed that now there are places where you simply cannot go anymore in terms of basic freedoms. But like anything, it has to be used responsibly. What is really interesting about, are they revolutions? Are they uprisings? Are they protests? Are they civil wars? Was the lack of ideology. Where was Islam? Where was anything like Arab nationalism? These were people rising up with slogans like, hold your head up high, you're Egyptian. We have lost our field, karama, dignity, hurriya, freedom. These were just very basic emotions. We talk about leaderless protests. We talk about protests without ideology, which of course was very fine at the time when people were gathering. But now we're at a different moment in most of these places where they need leaders, they need organizations, and suddenly people are saying, well, actually, what do we believe in? What kind of an order? We brought down one order in 3 places at least. What order are we going to put in its place? And therefore, people of different ideology are going to have to come together now. And some of the young people are resisting this. They say, no, we don't want leaders, but societies have to run with some kind of a leadership structure. If the military stays in power indefinitely in Egypt, I think there would be another revolution. I think everyone says, no matter how far any of these countries will go, including Egypt, they all say, we cannot go back to where we were before. And if what they have now in Egypt is a military regime without President Mubarak, then I think the hue and the loud cry from Egyptians continues to be, we have to start building democracy. What complicates that is that the majority of Egyptians also want jobs and they want security. And if people start being fearful about the future, if life doesn't start improving, they might start falling back on other solutions. So I think it is such a daunting task now for everyone at work in this new political space in Egypt to try to get it right, but it's going to take a long time.